For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. Turkish and Ukrainian officials say the first direct peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have ended after less than 2 hours. A Ukrainian official at the talks accused the Kremlin of introducing new unacceptable demands for Kiev to withdraw its forces from huge swaths of territory, according to a report by the Associated Press. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke ahead of the meeting.
If the Russian representatives in Istanbul today cannot even agree to that, to ceasefire, to this clearly necessary first step, then it will be 100% clear that Putin continues to undermine diplomacy.
The talks came after more than 3 months of diplomacy by President Donald Trump, who said this week he'll meet with Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Another heavy day of Israeli attacks in Gaza, at least 93 Palestinians killed since dawn as it continues to ramp up a military campaign to defeat Hamas and forcibly relocate Palestinians to the south. The increased bombing comes with a starvation campaign as well, blocking food and aid into Gaza in its 11th week. The UN says Israel's planned aid distribution in southern Gaza, where more than 1 million Palestinians would be forcibly crowded to, violates human rights. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump reiterated his vision for the U.S. to occupy Gaza and turn it into a freedom zone while meeting with Arab leaders of Gulf nations. Here's a couple excerpts.
Well, we're working very hard on Gaza, and Gaza's been a territory of death and destruction. The United States get involved and make it just a freedom zone, have a real freedom zone. Put people in homes where they can be safe, and Hamas is going to have to be dealt with. You got to remember, October 7th was one of the worst days in the history of the world, I think.
7 international experts on genocide have told the Netherlands publication NRC what Israel's doing in Gaza constitutes a genocide, joining findings from Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. Meanwhile, President Trump wrapped up his Middle East tour with business deals and foreign government investments in the U.S., including large arms deals with autocratic nations during his 4-day swing through Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Trump also moved to recognize the new government of Syria for the first time and prodded Iran to engage in nuclear talks. After media reports that tech billionaire Elon Musk landed a new deal with Saudi Arabia for his satellite internet service Starlink during President Trump's visit, Democratic senators are demanding an investigation into how Musk has directly benefited from the president's policies and actions since taking office. Senators Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, Mark Warner of Virginia, and Jeanine Shaheen, in a letter to the administration, urged a probe into what they called a textbook case of corruption. Writing, Starlink has seen a rush of new countries permitting the company to enter their markets. Soon after President Trump announced tariffs, Lesotho, India, Vietnam, and Bangladesh have also agreed to work with Musk's company in recent weeks as Trump was threatening to impose tariffs. Vietnam state media says the government has approved a $1.5 billion proposal by the Trump Organization and its Vietnamese partners to build golf courses, hotels, and real estate projects in the country. The project will include a golf course the size of 336 American football fields, residential areas, and commercial spaces. This as Vietnam is heading into negotiations with the U.S. in a bid to avoid a 46% tariff on its exports announced by the Trump administration. In the U.S., House Republicans are preparing to push their hard-fought package of tax breaks and spending cuts through its next hurdle in the Budget Committee, where it gets a hearing today. But some conservatives are warning they'll vote against it without further changes to the 1,116-page funding bill. They're holding out for steeper cuts to Medicaid and other programs to help offset costs of the tax breaks estimated to increase the national debt. The Supreme Court heard arguments on birthright citizenship and whether lower federal courts have the right to issue nationwide injunctions or universal injunctions on challenges to the executive branch. A favorable ruling for the Trump administration could roll back the power of the judiciary and give the administration the go-ahead for its continued flouting of the courts. Christopher Martinez reports.
Justice Clarence Thomas seemed convinced as lawyer John Sauer argued on behalf of the Trump administration.
So we survived until the 1960s without universal injunctions. That's exactly correct. And in fact, those are very limited, very rare, even in the 1960s.
Sauer argued that universal injunctions are a recent phenomenon. He says since Trump was sworn in as president, district courts have issued 40 universal injunctions against the federal government. But lawyer Kelsey Corcoran, arguing for pregnant women and immigrant rights groups opposed to Trump's order, made a point about current times.
If you look at the number of executive actions in the first 6 weeks of this administration, it's more than any other president issued in a year dating back to 1951 during the Korean War.
Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson seemed supportive of universal injunctions. She questioned how the government could require each person affected by an executive order to hire their own lawyer to file their own lawsuit.
We're not trying to give all these people, everyone in the world, some sort of enforceable right as against the government. We are simply just doing what courts do, I thought, which is telling the defendant over whom they have personal jurisdiction that they have to stop doing something unlawful.
I'm Christopher Martinez.
And I'm Christina Onnested, reporting for Pacifica Radio.